Out of all of these companies that have said that they don't want to use fur, are there any that Saga is still supplying to?
I could not answer that question.
Oh, hello. Oh, hello. Sprechen Sie High Fashion? Oh, hello. Sprechen Sie High Fashion? Oh, hello.
Hi, I'm Pally Castle and you're watching Where's the Fashion? This episode is called For Real. On March 28th, dozens of furriers protested the newly introduced fur ban in New York that is said to put 1,100 people out of jobs, costing New York City over $3.3 billion in revenue over the next 10 years. With various fashion houses opting to ban fur, it's said that PETA, also known as the animal rights activist group and fashion world's Bête Noire, has had an effect on the fashion industry. Brands that have banned fur include Chanel, Burberry, Coach, Versace, Michael Kors, the Yoox brand, which is Net-a-Porter, Gucci and more. And now, with two of the world's leading fashion institutions, Parsons and Antwerp, imposing a ban on fur, and the impending restriction to hit leading fashion institution Central St. Martin's, certain hypocrisies arise between fake fur, which is essentially made up of synthetic fibres, not to mention the extreme chemicals used for dyeing and softening of these fibres, and real fur, which companies like Saga and Copenhagen Fur are attempting to source as sustainably and ethically as possible. In this episode, I'll be investigating into the hypocrisy surrounding the fur debate, and I'll be speaking to fur dealers, furriers, designers and students and institutions like Central St. Martin's.
I spoke to and she just said that there has to be so much research put into it, and especially why I don't want to use faux fur. But it's like, if I had more time, then 100% would do it. Well, she didn't say it, but basically it's kind of a situation where if I do use fur, then I probably wouldn't get into pressure. And it's a shame. Faux fur, like that's so bad for the environment. Whereas all this fur, real fur, it comes from nature. It's the most sustainable way of actually using fur, you know, it's crazy.
And so how long did that take to make?
So because I was learning and this was done on my internship, I did it for the course of maybe 2 months or something. The lining has to be hand sewn completely. Like, it's just such an art. It's so different to making real clothes.
But I would still like go on hunting trips with my dad and my brother, and you know, I would help them like prepare the meat and stuff. Like, we'd like skin the bucks and the pigs that we shot. But I think everybody should, like, you know, if you're gonna like eat meat or wear fur, you should deal with that. Like, you should be fully aware that that's where it comes from, and you can't like get around what it is. So like I never had that problem with like fur and stuff. I dabbled in taxidermy because, you know, when we went hunting, my dad would always get a trophy mounted, like almost like at least once a year. I've just always been advised, like, you know, be careful, like you don't want to like ruin your chances for something, or that's like what always like seemed like the underlying thought. It's like, oh, you know, just like be careful. When I was at Saga, it was like pretty glossy how they talked about like everything else. Like, we're going to talk about the farms for a few minutes. We're going to talk about auction. We're going to talk about all of it just for a little bit, because that was mostly focused on us like creating.
They actually ever mention the actual animal?
They do. They're pretty, yeah, they're like pretty good at like not directly referencing it. In that, yeah, it's just like you can't really do that anymore. Like, people, like, even if it's faux fur, people are like, hey, and it's like, it's fake, I swear. And it's like, okay, like, you have to prove it though. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, as far as I know, like tanning leather is more destructive than tanning fur, because like in leather they use chrome.
I'm here with Valentin Devriese. So we're on a boat today and we're about to go in and see his house and interview him about fur and his collection.
in comparison, Paris and Milan, for example, has always been more about traditional luxury. My opinion is that luxury, it's all about people it's all about distinction. So basically wearing something that other people couldn't afford. And that's why I really don't understand how a luxury client would buy a fake fur coat that any woman could buy. Especially that fake fur nowadays is getting better. It's getting better in terms of touch and weight and how does it look. But it's really still not like fur. Like you could really tell the difference. And for example, like I've seen, for example, Givenchy did that big collection where there was literally a fur cone once every 2 looks, but it was all fake. And I went to the store and I've touched one of them and it was like, I mean, it was disgusting. I would never pay that price for that quality fabric. That's why we all know that, for example, Louis Vuitton doesn't really show fur on the shows, but they have 6 collections of furs every single year. The permanent ones, the one that goes with the collection, the pre-fold, blah, 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 just because they have clients for it. I was talking with the fur designer at Louis Vuitton and she was telling me that they were going low-key in fur, talking about mink, fox and things, but all the shearling was going crazy. She's never done that many shearling coats in her life, so it's the kind of like hypocrisy about it, because yeah, mink is not okay, but killing a goat is fine. Okay. But at least, for example, Chanel did the whole thing, saying that basically they wouldn't use any animal products that are killed only for their skins. I wouldn't ask Stella McCartney to use fur because it's all in her identity and she does the whole thing completely. What annoys me is when people do the thing like halfway.
After looking into the looming fur bans and speaking to young designers about the matter, I decided to investigate further and get some insight from high-end industry names, including one of the largest fur suppliers, Saga Furs, and leading multinational luxury goods company, LVMH, about the issue.
So obviously you work for LVMH. You know, there's a lot of issues with fur and sustainability now. Many of the brands that belong to LVMH have opted to not use fur anymore, but
some of them, not all of them.
exactly. So what I want to know is how many are still selling, even though they say that they're not using fur.
Almost all of our brands are using fur right now. You know, only a few of them trying to not use fur, real fur, of course, but moving to fake fur. So, like I told you before, the idea is really to have the best practices. So far, almost all our biggest brands are using fur.
All the farms that we provide the fur from, they are certified, making sure that the animal welfare has been taken care of. But not only that, so that the environment has also been taken care of while farming the animal. And the traceability, what it means is that when the pelts come to our auction and leave to the customer, we can actually trace back that pelt all the way back to the farm of origin where that animal was living, so that we can ensure that the farm was certified indeed and where that pelt has been throughout the supply chain journey.
How do you think fur makes you feel when you wear it?
Precious.
Precious.
I think the future of fur is bright. I think this discussion between natural material and plastic is really gaining some traction, and people are really realizing that the plastic is not the way forward. As long as we make sure that we take care of the animal welfare, we also need to take care of the environment, and I think people do understand there that the natural materials is the way to go.
You know, saying they don't want to use fur, but then they're using fake fur, and obviously, you know, the appeal is.
I don't know. Double standards comes to mind, right?
Yeah. You know, there are also rumours of brands still selling real fur when they're doing these whole protests and holding this flag of we're not using fur anymore. Like I spoke with LVMH and they said pretty much all of them are still using fur. So how can you account for that? Willingness to hide in a way.
I can't really comment on behalf of other brands. They make their own judgments and calls and business decisions, but I suppose the underlying underlying reason is that the fur sells, that there is interest to it, people want to buy it, and then maybe it's this kind of optics that they want to be seen, maybe something different, but still interested in making money.
Out of the, all of these companies that have said that they don't want to use fur anymore at all, which are there any that Saga is still supplying to?
I could not answer that question.
Why won't you answer the question about the brands that Saga is still supplying? Is there a reason?
We generally just don't discuss our customer matter, their confidential relationships, so I could not say whether somebody is buying fur or not.
There seems to be a lot of hypocrisy and half-truth going on with issues that clearly require transparency. So I decided to take matters into my own hands and try and request fur customization to really discover how many brands are lying or concealing the truth about their use of fur.
So we're outside Harrods and we're going to go and do a little experiment. We're going to ask brands that have said that they're not producing fur anymore to make some customised shoes or garments for us made out of fur. Let's go and see what happens.
Only in boutique for customization. Okay. They didn't even vertical.
We use a supplier, but it's normally it's an LVMH supplier that we would use, and it's kind of a very good partnership. Yeah, we don't know exactly what it is. It's not told to us. I mean, probably someone much more senior to me. We just know that it's very ethical source.
Are they selling the furs here?
Yeah, we do. In Harrods we do. Yeah, it's
everyone goes for
customer. Lead time is around 5 months, so now it's April, it'll be ready in time for winter, basically. So these are some of the gilets that we have in the name. Did you have a preference on fur that you like? Something that is also really beautiful is the astrakhan. That's also a little bit rare, especially like the shorter the fur. This is a little bit more traditional. The picture doesn't do them justice. It's a shame that we don't have the samples anymore to show you, but in real life they are very, very breathtaking. So do you do made to order? Yeah, we do quite a lot of people. I mean, especially in Harrods, because it's the fur lover's paradise.
I'm gonna get some more water. Just tell me if I'm doing that.